So I sent you the recording from the previous meeting that we did. You had already had that. I gave you access to this Google Doc that you see on the screen, which has the chat transcript, and I only used that because it had all the links in it. And then I went ahead and put some notes from the videos into some of this, and I started a document for you down here. We didn't write the response yet, but I started a document for you down here for your assignment. And I formatted the document already. I also formatted the works cited page with the three. So there's the Stewart collection, Tim Hawkinson's Bear that we watched. There's the other Tim Hawkinson interview. And then there's the web page. This is the web page that we looked at in case you decide to use that. So they're there. If you end up not citing one of these in the paper, then you can always remove it, but the citations are there for you. Okay.
Okay. I don't know why, but I can't see like their screen.
Oh, that's interesting. Let me try again. But did you get the Google Doc that I sent you? Because I sent you the same. How about now? Is that any better? Or do I need to close everything and try again?
Yes, I can see it now.
You can see it. Okay. You should have access to this same um, Google document because I sent it this morning. I was working on the citations last night, but I didn't have the paper ready. So, yeah. Okay. So, in order to write your response, and I just put this sentence up here by way of introduction. I said, Tim Hawkinson's Bear is a stone sculpture in the academic courtyard of the Jacob School of Engineering on the campus on the University of California, San Diego campus. Okay, so now we can talk a little bit about the sculpture. So basically, she wants us to answer about three questions in here. Um, how does Hawkinson press the bounds of credibility in the sculpture? What was the inspiration behind it? So let me number. This is oops. And then so I didn't answer that, but this came from the videos and what was the process that went into the creation of Bear. And this part basically came from this video, the Stewart collection video. These were kind of that was the short version of the steps. There's this pretty much came from the other Bear video, so I can help you cite that later. But what do you think about how does he press the bounds of credibility? In other words, when something's credible, it's believable. It makes sense to us. How does Hawkinson push push the boundaries is what she's asking here.
So I think he makes like his art piece like credible because I guess like in one of the videos they said that they have seen like his artwork and they were really like impressed of like the artwork that like
Mm-hmm.
that he's done before, so they wanted him to like do something on campus.
Right. That was no, that's not what this question is asking. We're not saying that he's not credible. What she's asking here is this sculpture is very different from a lot of sculptures, and it is outside of what people typically think of as being sort of a real work of art. It's definitely there. It's real in the sense that it's there, but there are some people who wouldn't call it art or call it sculpture. So what how does Hawkinson sort of like push the boundary a little bit? How does he manage to stay credible but push the boundary? It's what she means. I agree with you. They did say that. That was in the second video, the one from February, the longer one. Think about what it's a sculpture of and think about what it would normally be made from.
So the sculptures, I guess it's a bear.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Okay. And but what is it made from?
so it was made out of like rocks
Mm-hmm.
and like stones, and I think they also mentioned that like they use like I think like some like pans or something to like
Right. Steel
double.
pins to hold the rocks together. Uh-huh.
Yes.
Yeah. So maybe we could say, you can say Hawkinson. Okay, what else? what else can we say about how does that how does that change how you see it or how you perceive it? How does that change that?
So I think like it changes like how would I perceive it because I think I would say like it would be like something like different to have like in a like university campus. Like I feel like it's something that like you don't really
Mm,
see often. Like I feel like usually like universities like when they do like when they have like a piece of art like in their campus, it's usually like I guess like something that's like that kind of like represents or like
hmm. I
that like
agree. Okay.
represents the campus.
Okay. Um, oops. So what would you expect to see there instead?
I would maybe like expect more to see like I think like sort of like a mascot that like I guess kind of like resembles like I guess like the actual campus and not just
Okay.
um I guess like just a big like teddy bear there.
Okay. Common sculptures are representatives of the campus mascot or maybe honored graduates or founders, something like that. Yeah, that I hadn't thought of that, but that's true. Um so I'm gonna say, okay, let me cite this here. Um so I want to say the one in, let me check something because I don't remember which one is which, but I remember that the let me check here because I was watching it last night. Um, that was let's see, history, your history. There I am. Okay, let me check something. Which video was it that I watched? Shorts, and then okay, yeah, this was Mhm. Okay. Okay. Maybe we can say bear shows. Um, Something like that. Now, okay, that's good. So now, um, in terms of we can say I need to make for some reason it keeps sliding back to Times New Roman, and I don't know why, but I'll fix that. So Hawkinson, let me grab from the top because this is some of the stuff from the other. I'm going to bring it down here. These are some of the notes from the other video. Control V. Put that over there. And so the inspiration for Bear came from Hawkinson's previous in again in that same and so okay, let me make this Times New Roman again because this is 12-point font, and make it times because it continues to end. Me double space this. There we go. There we are. So the inspiration for Bear came from Hawkinson's previous ideas about common objects. In Tim Hawkinson's Bear Stewart collection, the artist stated, that he had been thinking about rocks and making animal forms. He already had several works involving rocks in a collection. there were specific requirements. Okay, I don't need to say that again. The rock had to be accessible and visible. The rock had to be in a place that it could be easily transported from using heavy machinery. The rock had to be approximately oval shaped, and the rock had to be an appropriate size for the sculpture. But okay, I said that already. And the rock had to be an appropriate size. Okay, so I can say, this is just the requirements that he had. I could say, the rock that forms let me say this. Hawkinson, oops, Hawkinson had to find the rock that forms the bear's torso first. The rock, okay, there we go. Then I can say, I don't know if you want to say anything about, I don't know if you want to say anything more about the inspiration before you get to the process of this.
Well, I think I would say like, um, yeah, um, like them, like putting, I guess like a teddy bear, um, like in a university, I would say like would be, something that's like unique because like I feel like people don't really, um, I guess like think of putting um, like an art piece like that and like I guess they would say like, oh yes, like this would like be a good fit
Mm.
for college campus.
So, and why do you think it fits, or do you? Do you think it fits campus?
Um well yes, I think like at the end like it does fit because um like in one of the videos I remember like them saying that like the bear like it actually looks like a teddy bear. So it kind
Mhm.
of looks um like I guess like something like comforting or like something like w really welcoming.
Yeah, and I think it was the website. I'll look for it, but I think it was the website that said that the students actually like they decorate it differently and they like they've taken ownership of it.
Yes.
And I yeah, so I think um even though so we'll add it to the first even though let me find the website. Let me go down here. I think that yeah, this is the website right here. I think they mentioned that. Control C. Let me bring it up. Here's the so it talks about for the Stewart collection, Tim imagined a bear constructed of boulders. 8 granite stones were found locally. Together they make a bear 23 feet 6 inches high with a total weight of 180 tons. Bear pushes the boundaries of credibility. Questions arise. Where did they find these rocks? How did they get them here? How are they real? How are they held together? On the one hand, the sculpture is massive, permanent, thoroughly engineered. At the same time, it has a form that one knows to be soft and cozy, a form that one associates with childhood, play, and security. The bear can be seen framed through the trees lining the paths that lead to the academic courtyard. As you get closer, you see the mass, the monumentality, and the stone surfaces. It becomes immense, especially in the context of the scale of a toy. The rounded, ancient, and weathered natural granite contrasts with the high-tech, anodized, and highly manufactured surfaces of the surrounding buildings. The bear in this world has an astonishing and memorable presence. It has inspired many students who have given it Valentine's Day heart classes, an entire crew team uniform, and a Barry Potter costume. So the students have taken it. So you can say, I would say something like, let me come up to the top so I can put that in there. Uh, So just put that in parentheses. Mm, mm, there we go. There. Um, okay, so that works. Now, okay, so here we talk about some of the uh and this is the same video as before. Um, that uh, so that's that part. Now, let me see what else I have. So this is the process of that. I can say that uh, originally Hawkinson Yeah, hold on. This is so now, okay, so we need to kind of wrap this up a bit with some sort of conclusion um about the value of the piece or um about the piece itself and all your thoughts about the process that it took. What would you like to say about that?
Mm. That I think, yeah, like it was like a long process because they had to use like machines and like I guess like find a place um to like put this like sculpture.
Mm-hmm. And are you, how do you feel about the process itself? Like, are you surprised that he like stuck with it that long, that he allowed people to, because he actually had to allow people to basically help him with his vision, which he wasn't used to, remember?
Yeah, so I think also yeah yeah, I would say that maybe like this type of like art piece that he did, like it was also like different for him in a way because yeah, how you were saying like he just didn't like do it by himself, like he had like other people like help him like create this.
Yeah, I mean, he had a lot of control because he made the original models, but I think we should say so, yeah, something about how the the it it almost becomes a community project in a way, um, or or a communal project in that sense. Definitely. And I think that's, we can kind of bring that together so we can say, um, Okay. And then is there anything else? Does she have a specific number of paragraphs that she wanted? She doesn't, does she? I can't remember if this had a specific number of paragraphs that she's.
Well, it says format. Be sure to use the MLA format.
Okay, we've done that. Let me see what else. But it doesn't, it has a word count. I know that.
It says
Right.
your complied response must be at least 200 words, approximately a paragraph. Do not include the prompts or questions in your typed response.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Right, but okay, so yours is probably closer to 300. I'm gonna find out right now. I'm gonna find out how long your response actually is. Let me just let me move this out of the way. Hold on. This is okay. My mouse is going a little crazy right now. Let's see if I can do it this. There we go. There it is. Okay. That part is schools word count. Yeah, yours is 416. So yours is definitely fine as far as that goes. Um, okay, so the only other thing here, I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of this part now. Get rid of that. So that there. And then I'm going to move this up so that there we are. The only other thing is you need to put in your professor's name here
Okay.
and the name of your class. So just erase this and I'm gonna run a spell check on it,
Okay.
but everything else should be good and your page numbers are there. Yeah, so yours is about a page and a half. And I'm gonna run. Let me see. Tim Hawkinson Bear. I just want to make sure that and Tim Hawkinson's Bear Stewart collection. Okay. And I think oh this yeah, this is I need to cite this. This is from the other video. Cite that. Right. F3 right here. Okay. Go ahead and just there, and then, and then. Okay. Now, let me run the tools on it. Spelling and grammar. Nope, it didn't find anything. So that's good. What art 100? Okay, yeah. Okay, that works. So yeah, I think you're ready for upload. I think she said she would take a Google Doc, right?
Yes.
So that should be that one. It wasn't bad at all.
No.
Is there something else that you would like to work on?
Yes.
Yeah, I figured. Because there's a lot of work in this class.
So I think like for another assignment, I have to like read chapter one and like do the quiz, but I haven't like bought the book yet.
Uh-oh. When is and it's due June 1st okay, so it's due tomorrow at 11:59 p.m. This quiz will assess your knowledge of the chapter, which explores the ways to understand and appreciate. This quiz is timed and open book. You may exit the quiz. You have one attempt. You have 30 minutes. There are 10 questions. Well, when are you going to have the book before tomorrow? Because it's due tomorrow at 11:59. I mean, we can't take the quiz without the book, I don't think. Unless, do you have slides or something that she gave you from chapter one? Something with some of the, or maybe in the modules somewhere? So we have to have some kind of content. Art and art making. Okay, discovering art. There's no link to your textbook in here? Hmm, okay. Did you upload the discovering art? Did you upload your,
Yes, I did turn in the assignment.
okay, submitted, next up, review feedback. Okay, but you haven't had feedback yet because she
Yeah.
just, yeah, exactly. So we haven't done that. Okay, but how am I gonna, what is the textbook for this class?
Let me look at.
Maybe I can find like chapter one online somewhere. Um, sometimes you can find, um, okay, required text. Lazari and Schlesier, Exploring Art, a Global Thematic Approach, 5th edition. Okay, let's see. Um, Lazari and Schlesier. Okay, let's see here. If I can find something. It says, art enriches our lives. The more we know about art, the more our existence is enhanced by it. The chapters in part one lay a foundation for both understanding and enjoying art. So the first chapter is art and art making. The definition of art, the ways we describe and categorize it, and the artist making it. And then we have chapters 2, 3, and 4, which we'll get to later. Okay, so then, okay, so this is a picture of the porch of the Corinthian in the Acropolis at Athens, the porch of the Caryatids. So we have a bunch of women in long flowing robes with, so it says preview. What is art? No single definition holds for all times and places, but this chapter gives a few working definitions. It also covers the ways that we describe, classify, and study art, and the way that art fits into our overall visual culture. At the end, we look at artist creativity and the making of art. Look also for art experience boxes, which encourage you to photograph art, make art, or analyze images or objects around you. For the definition of art. To answer the question, what is art? We need to know for whom and when. For example, the ancient Greeks of the 5th and 4th centuries before Common Era believed that art should both glorify man and express intelligence, clearness, balance, and harmony, as exemplified by the porch of caryatids. If we look at ancient Chinese culture, we find sculpture and porcelain works that express the power of the emperor. For the United States, at the beginning of the 21st century, we define art like this. Art is a primarily visual medium that is used to express ideas about our human experience and the world around us. So, art, let me put it in the chat. Art is a primarily visual medium that is used to express ideas about our human experience and the world around us. All right, so then, let's see. Basically, the definition of art is not universal and fixed. It fluctuates and changes because cultures are alive and changing, and we'll see more examples of this in the middle of this chapter. However, for now, you can begin to analyze and understand art from any time and place by focusing on 4 major areas: function, visual form, content, and aesthetics. Function. When you look at any work of art, one first question is, for what purpose was this originally made? At the time it is created, a work of art is intended to do a job within a culture. Here are some of its many functions. Art reflects customs and concerns related to food, shelter, and human reproduction. Chapters 5 and 6. Art gives us pictures of deities or helps us conceive of what divinity might be. It is also used to create a place of worship. Chapter 7. Art serves or commemorates the dead. Chapter 8. Art glorifies the power of the state and its rulers. It celebrates war and conquest, and sometimes peace. Chapter 9. Art reveals political and social justice and injustice. Chapter 10. Art records the likenesses of individuals and aids us in understanding ourselves, our bodies, and our minds, thoughts, and emotions. Chapter 11. Art promotes cohesion within a social group and helps us define classes and clans. Chapter 12. Art educates us about who we are within the world around us. Chapter 13. And art entertains us. Chapter 14. Finally, the art of the past serves to educate us about earlier cultures, while contemporary art is a mirror held up to show us our current condition. Visual form. Another primary question to ask about a work of art is what elements compose it and how are they arranged? Almost all artwork has physical attributes, so it can be seen or touched, and so ideas can be communicated. For a work of art, its materials have been carefully selected and organized, as have its line, shape, color, texture, volume, and so on. Chapters 2 and 3 are all about visual form, but we will compare two artworks here to introduce the basic ideas. Figure 1.2 is the veranda post, female caryatid and equestrian figure, carved before 1938 by Aloy Avise in Nigeria. Its function was to symbolize and strengthen the power of a Yoruban ruler. So here's the picture they're talking about. This is Aloy. This is the ruler they're talking about. And we're comparing that to the equestrian statue of Marcus Aurelius from Rome. So the left is Nigerian, the right is Roman. Compare that to figure 1.3, another sculpture intended to assert the authority of a ruler, the equestrian statue of Marcus Aurelius from the Roman Empire around 175 Common Era. In two very different cultures, a ruler on horseback functions as an image of power. But the visual form of each is different, and in ways that are meaningful to each culture. In the wooden veranda post, horizontal elements are minimized, while verticality emphasizes the authority of the king on top. For the Yoruban culture, inventive forms and rich details were important. So we see a pistol, a spear, dramatic headdresses, textures, small female figures, caryatids, and so on. The visual form of this sculpture is suitable for a Yoruban king. In contrast, the equestrian statue of Marcus Aurelius has a roundness and a volume that are different from the visual forms of the veranda post. Extraneous items and details, including armor, are stripped away, referring to the fact that Marcus Aurelius was a philosopher as well as an emperor. Also significant is the material, hollow cast bronze, which is durable, expensive, and difficult to work. Bronze distinguishes this piece as a costly and important royal Roman portrait. Scholars, art historians, and museum curators study art from the past, like these two sculptures, and educate us about the ways in which visual form and function are intertwined in works of art. By studying art, they and we glean considerable information about the historical moments from which they come. These scholars also study content, which we will see next. Content. Art has content, which is the mass of ideas associated with each artwork. So let me do something here. Let me say we have let me come back. We have visual form, which is visual form. What elements compose an artwork and how are they arranged? Then there's function, is what is the purpose for which the art was originally made. And then you have content, which it says art also has content, which is the mass of ideas associated with each artwork. Asking about content is critical to understanding any artwork. If you consider the entirety of art production, you will see that it reflects human perception and responses of all aspects of spiritual and earthly life, from death to birth and the hereafter, and of everything in between. It brings everything from the mundane to the cosmic into sharp, concentrated focus. Content is communicated through the art's imagery, its symbolic meaning, its surroundings, the customs, beliefs, and values of the culture, and writings that help explain the work. Content can be both immediately apparent and require considerable study. So content is oops. Imagery of symbolic meaning, surroundings, customs and traditions, and writings that help explain it. That's content. Okay, now the next thing is, let's see. For example, just by looking at Sandro Botticelli's Birth of Venus, that's up here on top, okay, from 1482, and Pablo Picasso's Les Demoiselles d'Avignon from 1907, you can immediately see the imagery. Both are paintings with multiple figures in the composition and female nudity in at least part of the subject matter. Hold on, let me turn this. Okay, it should it's on stuff. Okay. Venus is painted in a more realistic traditional style. The blocky, simplified demoiselles appear to be more modern and less interested in the popular ideas of beauty. In visual form, both paintings seem balanced side to side with a figure in the middle. However, much of the content is not readily apparent and requires deeper study. The Birth of Venus celebrates an ancient Greek myth and glorifies the beauty of the female body. When it was painted in 1482, it reflected the ideals of the early Italian Renaissance, which elevated the importance of man, emphasized learning, and held the ancient Greeks and Romans in high esteem. But the period was marked by conflicting currents because the Catholic Church was a major force at the time, and it disapproved of the depiction of pagan deities. Likewise, the content of Les Demoiselles d'Avignon is revealed only upon open study. Originally, Picasso intended to paint a brothel scene of the prostitutes with their male customers, but he made radical changes as the work progressed, ending with an image of intertwined figures in space that began an art movement known as Cubism. He was influenced by African masks, like the ceremonial mask known as a maboom or baboon from the Cuba or Basongo culture of Central Africa, circa the 19th and 20th centuries. At that time, African artworks like the mask were being brought to Europe through colonial trade, and they dramatically influenced Western art. Also, Picasso's blending of figure and space echoed the theories of scientists like Albert Einstein on the mutability of matter, energy, and space. Clearly, the content contains complex ideas related to European ideas of sexuality, to colonialism, and modern scientific theories, all of which may require study to learn and understand. So this is Picasso. This is his Cubist sort of abstraction. That's Les de Marcel, the Mademoiselles, and below is the African mask that they're referring to. In the same way, the ceremonial mask, known as Maboom or Baroon, has its own obvious and hidden content. Okay. Visibly, it's a visibly decorated helmet mask made of wood, beads, shells, and pieces of cloth. Less apparent is the fact that it was originally used in African masquerades, which are traditional celebrations that blend dance, art, song, and ritual. Many African peoples stage masquerades to reenact important creation events, spirit works, and ancestor stories. This mask represented the people over whom a king asserted his authority. Thus, all three works have a mass of meaning or content explained by scholarly research and critical writings. We will delve more deeply into how meaning is embodied in art in chapter 4. Oops. My apologies. Let me go back. Let me see something here. I have to go back to the page because it decided to make this out of the way. Let's see. I'll get it right now. Let me just get back to where we were at. Okay, so the next thing we're talking about here is aesthetics. And let me pull this up and share the screen again so you can see it. So here we have aesthetics. The last basic question regarding any artwork is, what are its aesthetic qualities? Aesthetics involve the look and feel of an artwork and the attributes that elevate it above other objects. These change from age to age and place to place. While some cultures may view the look and feel of a well-executed oil painting, others value the intricacy and patterns of finely woven natural materials. Aesthetics is a body of written texts that deal with art, taste, and culture, or that examine the definition and appreciation of art. So aesthetics Okay, so aesthetics deals with art, taste, and culture, as well as the appreciation of art. So those are the four things that we are going over in the chapter. Ancient Greeks wrote about aesthetics as they understood it. Thinkers from India, Japan, and China wrote about their culture's aesthetic systems. In several African, Oceanic, and Native American cultures, the practice of art demonstrated a clear aesthetic long before there was written material about it. You're thinking aesthetically when you reflect critically while reading a book like this one. Aesthetics as a body of knowledge goes beyond individual tastes, since it reflects the preferences of a large segment of the culture's population. In the 18th and 19th centuries in the West, aesthetics focused on the ideas of beauty, and the standard for beauty was ancient Greek sculpture, such as the porch of the Katydids on the Erechtheum. This approach led to the notion that aesthetics was essentially about beauty, and that beauty could be universally defined for all times and places. This universality position is discredited now because there is no worldwide agreement about what constitutes beauty, because philosophers today consider many qualities other than beauty as significant attributes of art. What do you think is the role of beauty in relation to art today? Art and style vocabulary. We pause for a moment in our discussion to learn some basic terms to describe art and art styles. These will be helpful for the rest of the chapter and throughout the book. Art is representational when it contains entities from the world in recognizable form. Another related term is naturalistic, which is recognizable imagery that is reflected very much as seen in nature. In idealized art, natural imagery is modified in a way that strives for perfection within the bounds of the values and aesthetics of a particular culture. The veranda post and the equestrian statue of Marcus Aurelius are both rendered in idealized styles, yet they are quite different because each culture has its own definition of what is ideal. Idealized art is often orderly and balanced vertically and horizontally. In addition to naturalistic or idealized representational art, it can be expressive or surreal. Expressionism or expressionist art communicates heightened emotions and often a sense of urgency or spontaneity. Expressive styles frequently appear bold and immediate rather than carefully considered or refined. They often feature distorted imagery and may appear asymmetrical or off balance. Surrealism or surreal art refers to art with a bizarre or fantastic arrangement of images or materials, as if tapping into the workings of the unconscious mind. Figure 1-7. In contrast to representational art is non-objective, non-representational art, which contains forms that are completely generated by the artist. Another term, abstract art, is often used to mean the same thing as non-objective, but there is an important distinction. Abstracted imagery has been derived from reality by distorting, enlarging, and dissecting objects or figures from nature. Pablo Picasso's Les Demoiselles d'Avignon is abstract, but the manipulated imagery is still recognizable. Therefore, Picasso's work cannot be called non-objective. All of these terms can be used to describe the style, either of the output of a whole culture or that of an individual artist. A cultural style consists of recurring and distinctive features that we see in many works of art emanating from a particular place and era. For example, the cultural style of ancient Egyptian art with strong outlines and flattened figures and flattened spaces helps us to group its paintings across hundreds of years. Stylistic differences make the art of ancient Egypt readily distinguishable from other cultural styles. To further define, culture is the totality of ideas, customs, skills, and arts that belong to a group of people. In contrast, a civilization is a highly structured society with a written language or very developed system of communication, organized government, and advances in the arts and science. So civilization is about the society. Culture is the ideas, skills, and customs that belong to it. Cultural styles are recognizable against a broad spectrum of art objects created by people. For example, during the 17th century reign of King Louis XIV of France, the court style, which was ornate and lavish, could be seen in everything from architecture to painting, furniture design, and clothing. Even hairstyles were affected, with big, elaborate wigs. What qualities do you see were shared by contemporary art, popular music, and the latest ads for clothing? Differences in cultural styles became apparent when studying a particular art form that appears across the globe. For example, Islamic mosques are built around the world to provide a place for Muslims to congregate and pray together. But local styles differ from each other, as we can see with the Grand Mosque in Djen, Mali. So this is the mosque in Mali versus, here's a couple of more. This is the mosque. This is a mosque from Pakistan. Not nearly as flat, more ornate, and it's got more pillars on it. And the Bandashi Mosque in Lahore, Pakistan. Both are imposing buildings with towers, yet each design is influenced by cultural preferences and by locally available building materials. And cultural styles are not static. They evolve as a result of many circumstances, including changes in religion, historical events such as war, and contact with other cultures through trade or colonization. Style can also refer to the work of an individual artist who can develop a unique personal style. The artist Vincent van Gogh is famous for his expressive paintings rendered in thick paint with broad areas of strong colors, like the portrait of Madame Junot de la Sun, figure 110 from 1889. However, no artist operates in a vacuum. Van Gogh's unique style shares attributes with the styles of other artists of his time, including Impressionists such as Claude Monet, see figure 1414, and post-impressionists as Georges Seurat and Paul Gauguin. All of these artists applied bright colors in a thick way and often show subject matter from everyday life. Paul Gauguin and Vincent van Gogh were closely associated for a while, sharing lodgings and painting together, as evidenced in Gauguin's Woman in a Coffee House, Madame Junot de la Café de la Gare in Arles. Each painting has shared and unique qualities. Note the similarity in Madame Junot's pose, but the difference in her attitude, in the overall scene, and in the color choices. Between these two artist examples, which one appeals to you more and why? Art within visual culture. Art is just part of visual culture. That is, it is part of the vast amount of imagery that humans create and proliferate that comes to us through all kinds of media and that is so important in our everyday lives. Imagine life 200 years ago with few books, few pictures, no phones, no television, no computers, no internet, and so on. Compare that lack of visual culture with today, when we are inundated with images and visual objects that humans make. Consuming that imagery has become far more fascinating and absorbing to many people than the actual world in which we live. Visual culture is the result of technological innovation in the broadest sense, whether it is the development of chalk, oil paints, painting, or personal computers. The images we make are distributed through many means, such as mass media, the internet, galleries, museums, stores, and ads. We will look at some of the categories within visual culture in a moment. Before we begin, however, remember that these categories are culturally determined. Some cultures, both past and present, do not even have a term that corresponds to ours for art, and other cultures have their own categories that differ from those in the United States. One example, which we already mentioned in relation to figure 1.6, is the masquerade in sub-Saharan Africa, an important ritual art form that has no direct equivalent in the United States. The only remotely related celebrations are Halloween and Mardi Gras, which are connected to the Christian traditions of All Souls Day and Lent, respectively. Another example of different categories for art comes from the Japanese, who value ikebana as an art form, unlike most Western cultures. The closest translation is flower arranging, but it is much more than that, as it is a disciplined art form governed by strict rules and mixed with spiritual awareness. That said, let us turn to the three categories of visual culture in the United States: fine art, popular culture, and craft. So here's another couple of images. Fine art. Fine art is a category of refined objects considered to be among the highest cultural achievements of the human race. Fine art is believed to transcend average human works and is produced by artists with unique sensibilities. Museums and galleries are institutions closely associated with fine art. As mentioned at the very beginning of this chapter, cultures are constantly evolving in their definitions of what constitutes art. In the 1800s, fine art in Western cultures consisted of oil painting, sculpture, and architecture, usually in the idealized scene styles seen in Figure 112, and was mostly located in palaces and churches. Since the 1800s, fine art has expanded dramatically along with the overwhelming growth of visual culture. Now it includes all kinds of new media, such as film, photography, prints, and most recently, installation, performance, video, and computer art. An exhibit of fine art might include almost any kind of material or technology or even junk. You can find it in public spaces and recreation areas. And in addition to museums, street art is also a potent force in communities, sometimes as commissioned murals and sometimes as unsanctioned graffiti and paintings. Figure 114 shows a beautifully drawn rooster that covers a two-story wall in a small public square in San Juan, Puerto Rico. In addition, definitions of fine art are in flux when Western people look at art from other cultures. In 1880, words like the mask known as Maboom or Boom would not have been displayed in museums in the United States or Europe. So this is street art at the top. Now art from the Americas, Africa, and Asia is a prominent part of major art museums in Western cultures. So here's the mural they were talking the wall art, the mural they were talking about. And here is the fact that you see permanent installations from oceanic regions, from Asia, from Africa. Popular culture. Popular culture in Western nations consists of magazines, comics, television shows, advertising, folk art, tattoos, customized cards, graffiti, video games, posters, websites, calendars, greeting cards, dolls, souvenirs, toys, movies, as opposed to art or films, snapshots, and commercial photography. This category also encompasses graphic design, product design, and information design. Popular art is often perceived as being more accessible, inexpensive, entertaining, commercial, political, naive, or colorful than fine art. Among all categories of visual culture, this one is growing the fastest. It is important to study popular culture while studying fine art because the two are interrelated and parts of a continuum that contains much of the visual imagery that Western culture produces. Popular culture and fine art often influence each other. Popular culture objects share many attributes of fine art in that they also can be analyzed along the lines of function, visual form, and content. They reflect the values and structures of our social system, political hierarchy, and religious beliefs. Popular culture is studied academically in visual culture, art history, philosophy, and anthropology courses. Some objects from popular culture eventually become art. For example, popular prints like Las Bravísimas Calaveras Guatemaltecas de Mara y de Morales by Jose Guadalupe Posada, now carefully preserved in a university library. This print was originally inexpensive and widely distributed, like an editorial cartoon with large running skeletons that represent two assassins who brought death and chaos to Guatemala over a century ago. Some artists want to occupy the space between fine art and popular culture. For example, Kiki from 2010 is by the contemporary Japanese artist Tashiki Murakami, who produces paintings, designer handbags, and installations of large-scale inflatable art. His work is a blend of Western and Japanese art, popular culture, design, and anime, contemporary Japanese animation, and always reflects a self-conscious consumerism. Murakami also sells multiple edition prints of works on paper and canvas through galleries and the internet. His 2010 exhibit in the Palace of Versailles juxtaposes the significant yet pompous array of the palace's marble and gold with the brash plastic brightness of its sculpture. A subcategory of popular culture called kitsch comprises artwork that is shallow or pretentious or overly calculated to be popular. Objects or images are kitsch if they display an emotional appeal that is generalized, superficial, and sentimental. Unlike the best of fine art, popular kitsch does not provide an original experience, a uniquely felt emotion, or a thoughtful, introspective moment. The Smithsonian Institution's 150th anniversary float in the Rose Parade, with its collection of images from astronauts to the first airplane, to pandas, to butterflies, to baseball, is meant to appeal to all and offend none. The buildings appear diminutive and cute, not like the sites of serious research. Like all other categories of visual art, the idea of kitsch is evolving and changing. Critics such as Susan Sontag have reclaimed some kitsch as camp, which means that objects and images of such extreme artifice and often banality have a perverse, sophisticated, and aesthetic appeal of theirs bare.
Yeah.
And that they reveal another kind of truth about the human situation. So this, it's saying underneath, is a cross between a toy and monumental art. So let's see what it says. Other artists incorporate and transform sentimental or cute items in their work. The artist, Tim Hawkinson, who known for his inventive, humorous, or fantastic art, created the nearly 200-ton stone bear, a cross between a teddy bear and Stonehenge. There is an interesting association between the surfaces of a soft, fuzzy childhood companion and the rounded, weathered surfaces of ancient stones. Do you think there should be a demarcation between fine art and popular culture. Why? Craft refers to specific media, including ceramics, glass, jewelry, weaving, and woodworking. Craft usually involves making objects rather than images, although craft may involve surface decoration. Often, craft objects have a utilitarian purpose or perhaps evolved from a utilitarian origin. In addition, however, they display aesthetic and or conceptual attributes that go beyond mundane use. Like the distinction between fine art and popular culture, the art craft distinction is culturally specific and in flux. We will look at one example here, but we could take up literally thousands of craft objects and analyze their relation or distinction from fine art. The Gordes prayer rug from 18th century Turkey is a good example of an object that might be categorized as craft or art. Like other woven objects, it is craft, but its aesthetic qualities and ritualistic uses carry it beyond a utilitarian function. The intricate pattern echoes tile work in mosques, and the white niche in the center is like a mihrab, an architectural feature in a mosque that marks the direction of Mecca. Other categories. There are other ways to categorize art. Disciplines such as drawing, photography, and sculpture may be grouped as separate categories. And of course, as we have already seen, some cultures have their own distinct categories outside these previous examples. We will see all of these forms later in this book, in later chapters in this book. Art can be categorized chronologically according to cultural styles through the years, like a history of Renaissance art or art from the Middle Ages. A geographic approach studies the art from a particular era, also in chronological order. For example, the art of Africa or the art of the American West. This text approach is thematic. Fundamental concepts and themes form our basis for discussing art from many different cultures, as seen in chapters 5 through 14. These fundamental global experiences include food, shelter, reproduction, sexuality, deities, places of worship, politics, power, social protests, social affirmation, the mind, the body, race, gender, class, clan, natural knowledge, technology, entertainment, and visual culture. Other divisions are possible. You, as an observer of art, can create your own categories for grouping artworks, and these areas can vary according to your preferences. A discussion of art would not be complete without looking at artists, their training, and the roles they play in society. Artists make art, but before we begin that discussion, we want to discuss the many ways in which other people contribute to the process of making art. These include patrons, technicians, skilled workers, craftspersons, laborers, members of institutions, and the regular person on the street. When we think of big works like the Egyptian stepped pyramid of Djoser and tomb complex from 2650 BCE, we realize, of course, that many people contributed to building that project, including engineers, skilled workers, and thousands of laborers, supervised by priests and architects. But even the concept of a pyramid was a group project. The pharaoh was the patron who provided the funding and impetus for the project. The design of the pyramid was the vision of one architect, Imhotep, and he was able to build structures in stones that were higher and larger than any seen before. Nevertheless, all earlier Egyptian tombs were prototypes that enabled him to conceive his design. Imhotep's design was a key development for the later refinements in the pyramid style to be made in the Great Pyramids of Giza. Plus, the members of the Egyptian priest class had developed complex belief systems about the afterlife, and the rituals directed the design of temples and tombs. Other art forms, film, architecture, and any work of large scale, obviously require the active participation of many people to be realized. Even small scale, such as a student's oil painting, requires the input of teachers, past and skills and past painters and art critics to provide the necessary background of skills and ideas. The materials are developed by artists and scientists and manufactured by art supply firms. The student probably has financial support, showing that parents, politicians, wealthy donors, or university administrators consider the study of painting to be important enough to pay for it. Training artists. Artists need to acquire skills. Traditionally, many started as apprentices in established art workshops to learn materials, manual skills, and styles from mature artists. There are examples of this system all around the world. For example, Leonardo da Vinci was trained as an apprentice in the workshop of the artist Andrea de Verrocchio, where he received an education in humanities, as well as learning chemistry, metallurgy, painting, casting, and more. Throughout Africa, artists traditionally were trained in the apprentice method, learning the tools and methods as well as aesthetic standards. Most apprentices do preliminary rough work, and the master artist finishes the piece. In addition to apprentice systems, most structured institutions have existed for training artists. In medieval Europe, specialized societies called guilds preserved technical information for artists and regulated art making. Persian royalty from the 13th to the 17th centuries sponsored the Kitab Kahana, libraries, and workshops of highly trained artists who produced fine illuminated manuscripts. Art academies in Europe appeared in the 15th century. One of the most famous was France's powerful Académie Royale de Peinture et de la Sculpture, founded in 1648 by King Louis XIV to control the decorative arts, architecture, painting, and landscape architecture for his enormous lavish palace at Versailles and its surrounding gardens, as well as for his other residences. Although art academies still exist in much modified form, most artists in the United States today study art in a college's or university's art department. Some artists are self-taught, receiving no formal art training. Some work in isolation. For 14 years, James Hampton of Washington, D.C. worked in the throne of the third heaven of the nation's millennium. Laboring over it daily from the time he finished his job as a janitor until the middle of the night. He dreamed of opening a storefront ministry after retirement. By the time he died, he had produced a heavenly vision with 180 pieces made from inexpensive or cast-off material. So this is part of what you see at the bottom. It's part of the third heaven of the national the nation's Millennium General Assembly. Gold on silver, aluminum foil, craft paper, and plastic over wood furniture, paperboard, and glass. How does artwork get made? In many cases, individual artists make their own artwork. Michelangelo Buonarroti did most of the painting on the colossal Sistine ceiling because he was dissatisfied with the work that his collaborators did. Vincent van Gogh painted all of his own paintings because, as he wrote to his brother, then he valued the art of creation more than life itself. But sometimes art objects are made by workshops, by communities, in collaborations, and through group commissions. We have already discussed apprentices in workshop situations in Italy and in the rest of Europe and Africa, as well as the Kitab Kadhana of Persia. Even today, some artists hire assistants to help build, assemble, paint, or produce their works of art. Sometimes art making is a collaborative activity among professionals of equal standing. The knowledge and skill of each collaborator are essential to the final product. An example is traditional Japanese prints, like Basket Fairy by Ando or Atagawa Hiroshugi, requiring the combined skills of many professionals, all commissioned by a publisher. The artist makes an original drawing, but the print itself is executed by a host of other professionals, including a paper maker, an engraver, and a printer, as illustrated in figure 314. In addition, sometimes communities come together to make a work of art. An early precedent occurred in medieval Europe when citizens of small growing cities built impressive cathedrals that were symbols of community pride. Trained craftsmen were surely needed, but the average untrained townsperson provided labor and support. Some artists blend both approaches. James Quick to see Smith's Genesis contains aspects of innovation and self-expression. But at the same time, she is recreating old forms. On the one hand, Smith has applied thick, expressive gestural strokes of oil paint on top of a collaged layer of newspaper articles, photocopied images, and pieces of fabric. On the other hand, she's preserving old forms. Referring to Native American creation myths, she has incorporated native symbols, sculptures, and lines from stories, along with glorifying the buffalo, an animal with mythical standing. She has blended traditional native imagery and mythology into late 20th century art styles. To Smith, all her works are inhabited landscapes full of life, which is an essential Native American cultural idea. The AIDS Memorial Quilt began in 1989. A different view is on page 242, provides a contemporary example of community art making. The AIDS Memorial Quilt is a composite of thousands of 3 by 6 foot panels, each made by ordinary people to memorialize someone they lost to AIDS. It is a collection of individual remembrances which together create the whole fabric. Individual panels may be naive or may be sophisticated, but collectively they are very moving. The quilt is an ongoing effort of the Names Project, begun by gay activist Cleve Johnson in San Francisco in the 1980s. It is also used as a fundraising tool for AIDS research. How important are innovation and self-expression in art making? Innovation is the making of something that is new. Self-expression refers to individual artists' own personal ideas or emotions embedded in the works of art they make. While innovation and self expression can be seen in much of the art made in the United States today, they are not ubiquitous. And there are some cultures in which artists follow formulas or copy other works because their culture values the recreation of old forms more than innovation. Depending on the culture, artists may be considered ordinary people, skilled workers, priests, or people with special or prized skills. Among the Hindu Balinese people on the South Pacific island of Bali, almost everyone makes art, visual art, dance, or music, although certain people are recognized as teachers or people of superior ability. In Bali, art, religion, and social institutions are completely intertwined, resulting in the production of impermanent artworks, as well as wooden statues and large stone temples. Although simple offerings are made every day to deities, ancestors, and demons, Balinese women make large sculptures of fried colored rice dough, like the Sarud offering, for temple festivals. Offerings like this can exist for a short time and can be used only once, but the obvious care and skill that go into them indicate the significance of art in everyday life. In some cases, making art is tied to gender roles. In traditional Sepik culture in Papua New Guinea and also among the Navajo of North America, men make certain kinds of art, while women make others. And so here we have some other pieces that have been referenced. It says, in some cultures, artists are skilled workers or laborers, just like others who make things. For example, medieval artists and craftsmen who built the large cathedrals were not famous personalities, but were more like skilled union members. In communist China from the 1950s through the 1980s, artists were not to seek personal glory, but rather to work anonymously at making art for the common good. Among the Baul people of West Africa, artists are skilled professionals, and the best earn prestige and high pay, but the artists' names are not associated with the sculptures they make. Rather, the owner of the piece performs rituals and develops the artwork's spiritual cult, like the Baul seated figure, which represents a spirit wife. A Baul ritual sculpture could be less effective if its human maker is emphasized. And of course, in some cultures, artists are considered people with special or prized skills. In particular, in Europe, since the Renaissance, many European artists were considered creative geniuses. One artist was Leonardo da Vinci, who has also made contributions to the study of hydraulics, zoology, geology, optics, physics, botany, and anatomy, like the properties of the human figure. To Leonardo, observation was essential to understanding the mechanics and beauty of the world, and thus the foundation of both sciences and art. Finally, since art is often a vehicle for spirituality, an artist who makes spiritual art is sometimes also a holy person, priest, or shaman. In the Cook Islands in Polynesia, artists who carved ritual sculptures were also priests who trained for a long time as apprentices, not only to attain art skills, but also to acquire the spiritual power inherent in their tools and materials. Monks in monasteries produced medieval manuscripts which were often handwritten and illustrated prayer books or Bibles. Men in several Native American tribes conducted ritual ceremonies that involved making art. Even in the 20th century, some artists engage in practice that is considered shaman-like. For example, Joseph Beuys was known for creating work that he intended to help heal the traumatized human spirit after the horrors of World War II and show a new way of living in the world. His 1969 work, The Pack, is a conscious turning away from the industrialized modern state represented by the man to a more primitive human existence represented by the sleds. Boys equipped each sled with what humans need for this new journey: a flashlight for navigation, felt blankets for protection, and fat or sustenance. Okay. And that's it for the chapter. And that's it for the sample. So now I'll let you share the screen. I'm gonna close this. And you can go ahead and put up the quiz and we'll see about taking it. The quiz is timed and open book. Please only use course materials. You may exit. Your answers will be saved. You have one attempt. Okay. Okay, we can do that. And what time is it now? 12:48. Okay. I just want to see so I can keep an eye on the time. Go ahead. Once you have submitted an answer, you will not be able to, okay. So we have to make sure okay. Go ahead. The content of art refers to, okay, so if you look at the chat, content refers to the mass of ideas that surround the work, such as imagery, symbolic meaning, surroundings, customs, traditions, and writing. So
So
the
would it be the
meaning or
last
the mass of idea, right?
meaning or mass of ideas?
Mm-hmm. Next question. Which of the following does not characterize popular culture in Western nations? Fine photography, video games, folk art, or graphic design. Popular culture includes, it doesn't include fine photography, because that would be more like fine art. Contemporary American artists are recognized for which two aspects of creativity: mass appeal and productivity, documentation and historical accuracy, market value and elitism, or innovation and self-expression. I would say it's innovation and self-expression based on what we read. Okay. A term used to classify some visual culture that is often described as shallow, pretentious, and overly calculated to be popular. That's kitsch. That's kitsch. Another term for non-objective art is naturalistic, non-representational, impressionistic, or figurative. It's, I think that's non-representational, even though it's not exactly the same thing. I think it's non-representational art. Idealized art strives for blank within the standards and aesthetics. It strives for perfection within the standards and aesthetics of a personal culture. That's why it's idealized, because it strives to be perfect, strives for perfection. That perfection depends on what culture you're in. Okay. Botticelli's Birth of Venus was idealized for the Botticelli's Birth of Venus, the European standards of civilization. That was European beauty, because it's based on the Greek myth of Venus. Ceramics, glass, jewelry, weaving, and woodworking are categorized as craft. Blank art conveys intense emotions. Expressionist art. Art can be categorized chronologically. Okay, I have to look at, I think this one is thematic. Let me see. Art can be categorized. I think it's, let me pull it up again. But I'm pretty sure it's thematic. I'm pretty sure it's, let me look at the, because I was just reading that. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Doesn't want to show me that, so I have to go back to picture of thematic art. And I'm pretty sure that was okay. I'm looking for, okay, let's see. It says there are other ways to categorize art. So you see, art can be categorized chronologically, geographically, yeah, or thematic. So thematic is the answer to that question. Right there. Thematically, that's correct. Oh, that's it? Okay. Let's see how we did. Nice. It took you 8 minutes.
Mhm.
That was not bad. Okay, but just know that I won't have the other chapters of the book because the sample was only one chapter long. Okay, so try to get a hold of the book before your next quiz, or it should come with your canvas, right? Usually it's embedded. I don't know
Yeah,
why.
because I was trying yeah, to find like the book or something like on Canvas, but there's like nothing. So yeah, I think I'll just buy the book today, so
Okay.
hopefully I'll have it next week.
Yeah, no problem. Okay. I'll be in touch. Remember, Monday I have an appointment, a doctor's appointment in the afternoon, and I don't think I'll be home in time. Um,
Okay.
but I'll check in with you and see how the class is going. But I find out how my results are from the medication that I've been on. So think some good thoughts from me on Monday afternoon. Okay.
Yeah. Um, and will you be able to do tutoring tomorrow? Because I think I have like another I think like writing assignment to do for this
Yeah,
class.
I can do it tomorrow. I have to see what time Oscar wants to meet, but there's no reason that I can't meet the two of you. That's fine.
Oh, okay.
You have another writing assignment? Yeah, that should work for me.
Yeah, I think it's another like writing assignment like the one that like similar to the one that we did today, and it's yeah, it's due like tomorrow before midnight.
Oh wow, we have another one due before midnight. Okay. All right. Well, choose if it's choose a piece of art, choose your piece, and then we'll do the video. We'll watch all the videos and do. But we know how to format it now, so um I can take from that document and use it as a template, so I don't have to reformat everything.
Okay.
All this, I mean, I'll have to make the citations and whatnot, um, but yeah, okay, no problem. So you want to try to meet like at what time tomorrow is good for you? Tomorrow's Sunday,
I think like 9:30 is fine.
9:30. Okay, all right, I can do that. That works for me. I don't think Oscar will want to meet that early. He
Okay.
usually, he usually likes to meet in the afternoon, so that works.
Okay.
Okay, all right, Daniela.
Okay,
I'll
thank
post this
you.
up later and we'll talk tomorrow then. Okay?
Bye.
Bye now.